Welcome in. Today we're talking about conference realignment, specifically the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Let's get it. What's going on, everyone? Today we're talking about realignment. I know we've been talking about realignment a lot. Everyone's been talking about realignment a lot in the media circle. And I know, this week I was at Big 12 Media Days and got to listen to new Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. And, he kind of stole the show a little bit at Big 12 Media Days, just talking about how the conference is open for business, which I think we all knew. They're obviously looking at the Pac-12. They're looking at ways to, either merge or take schools away from the Pac-12. So we know he's been very busy early on. His vision for the future, I think, is really cool in the Big 12 as well. Younger audience is a goal for him, making football fun again, social media, and just being aggressive in general. And I think all those comments led people to kind of talk about the fact that the Big 12 needs to make a move. And the Big 12 needs to continue to be aggressive. And where the Pac-12 failed a year ago, talking to Big 12 schools and potentially taking Big 12 schools, the Big 12 this year needs to make sure that that happens. So I think we saw this week some interesting news. So the Pac-12 was trying to redo their media deal, and that kind of allowed them to take their time a little bit, right? You get to talk to your conference mates and try to figure it out and hopefully come together, kind of like the Big 12 did last year. So they were saying, okay, we'll just wait for the numbers to come back and then get a projection so we kind of know where we're at heading into the new media rights deal that's going to happen in 2024. The problem is those numbers were never going to be good. And all reports and everything I've heard is they're not good. And because of that, now they were trying to widen options. So they were trying to get a merger with the Big 12, a full merger of Pac-12 and Big 12. Why would the Big 12 do that? That made no sense to me. That just seems like you're in the conference saving business. And I don't think the Big 12 needs to be in that. I don't see that as the future of college sports is merging with conferences, then having two conference commissioners and all that weirdness. No, that's not the way you handle these things. And that rumor got squashed yesterday by Pete Thamel. And so he said, that's not happening. That's off the table. But the Big 12 still may take some schools from the Pac-12. So that's the good news, right? For the Big 12, at least, is that they're still looking to be aggressive, but it's also bad news for the Pac-12 because now what do you do? I mean, if you're the Pac-12, you can go add Boise State or San Diego State, and maybe that would be fun, but it doesn't really move the needle. It just seems like the Pac-12 is just waiting for the dominoes to fall, and then I don't know what's going to happen to them. But on the Big 12 side of things, they're looking at Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Arizona State. Those have been the four schools that have been linked the most. Obviously, Washington and Oregon would be very appealing as well. I know yesterday, Jason Scheer, who covers Arizona, was on 365 Sports Radio. He talked about how he feels like Arizona will be in the Big 12 by 2026. I think it's going to be far sooner than that. With their media rights deal coming off in 2024, I think it'll probably be around then if they do decide to make that jump. But the other interesting part, and I think this is something that is very important to this whole realignment shift, is, schools that are trying to go together to places, right? Arizona and Arizona State have always been thought of as a package deal for the Big 12. But it really seems like Arizona is far more interested at this point. And because of that, it makes you think, okay, so what if Arizona wants to leave, but Arizona State doesn't? Then what? Well, Jason also addressed that on 365 Sports, saying that he felt like Arizona would have to really think about it. And he felt like they would probably leave if Arizona State was adamant that they weren't going. But he also said that the ideal situation is they both go together. And I think that makes the most sense as well. I'm right there with him, but I'm also right there with him in that Arizona has to save themselves. If they don't see the Pac-12 going anywhere, they have to leave Arizona State. They have to make a decision that's best for their university. And I think all these schools are going to realize that the Big 12 is what's best for their university. They're going to be able to make more money in the Big 12. They're going to be able to be more profitable. And I think the product on the field is just simply going to be better once UCLA and USC leave. The Big 12 is going to have more good teams, and the on-the-field product is going to be far better and far more attractive to media rights deals. You kind of look at some of the other reasons for the Big 12. It's kind of like you don't want to add schools that don't add value to the conference, right? But you're also not here to save the Pac-12. So it's kind of like, how many schools do you take and how open are you to waiting? That's the other kind of factor here. So let's say they take 2 schools from the Pac-12. I am of the belief that if they take 2 schools, 2 more are going to follow, and then potentially 2 more after that. That'd get you 6 schools. That'd get you to 18 teams. And then you essentially probably have 2 spots left for potential ACC schools, if that happens. When and if. I mean, that's a whole nother topic, is the ACC deal that they have is that, they're not going to be available for a while, a long time. And because of that, I think it's smart to just add while you can. And I think that's the biggest thing for the Big 12. Be aggressive. Go out, look to add these schools that you already can add, and then worry about the rest later. Get to as many schools as you possibly can, and then worry about ACC stuff when that happens, when and if that happens. But I think the biggest thing for the Big 12 is that it seems like Brett Yormark is a guy who definitely wants to make a move, and he's definitely a guy who seems like he's ready to make a move right now. And he's not going to just sit back and let everyone else dictate what's going to happen to the Big 12. He's going, no, we're going to make the Big 12 what we want it to be. And I find that very commendable. And I think that's great things for the Big 12 going forward. We're going to have a lot more information on realignment. It's going to continue to shape the way we watch college football and just the geography of college football and all of those things. It's a moving target, right? So we're going to have more information every single week, but I felt like it was really important to provide a baseline of where the Pac-12 and Big 12 are at right now, at least in my eyes. So later on this week, we're going to talk about a few more predictions on the season. We're going to talk about Notre Dame, talk about what they could be potentially trying to do to up their value as a school as well. But for today, this has been Grayson Grunhafer. Thanks for tuning in.